I just grabbed a stamp out of the package of stamps that I have here, a roll of stamps, I should say. And there are lots and lots of them. I probably have 500 or 600 different ones. I'm kind of a tool junkie. It's not necessary to buy every tool you see, even though some of us do. So these were a couple of feet that we used. What I find fascinating is that people sometimes don't know how to use the tools when they're first beginning. And I took a course with a fellow once, and he'd never done leather work before. I hadn't seen tools, and he was trying to learn how to make some shoes, and we were doing some leather carving as well. They gave him the tool, my teacher, and he said, okay, this is the tool that you're going to use, the stamp, and I want you to take it and make a mark on the leather the way you just did a few minutes ago. And he put the tool down on the leather, and he hit it. And he rolled it over. And, of course, we were all giggling at him. But he made a very interesting texture on the leather using the tool in the way that we wouldn't normally think that it could be used. So that's the one thing that you can understand. It doesn't matter what you put on the leather as long as it makes an impression, and the impression is what you want. So if you have some old pieces of jewelry, for instance, or if you're too young to drink, but if you happen to have something that they put around wine bottles when you're bringing them home from the liquor store, you can take and put that down on the leather. And with my very expensive handmade tool, I'm going to take and put that down on there. And I'm just going to stamp on top of that. And you can see that it makes an interesting texture. I'm going to let you take and do that one with the fancy tool. And that. And you're just going to sit it down and slide it around on there and hit it good and hard. Really hard. That's why you're holding it, not me. All the way across. Let's see what happens. See? You can make quite an interesting design on the leather using all sorts of different items. I have some here on my card that I've done in the past, just as samples, and you can see that this particular piece was used to make one side and the other side. This, when we get a close-up of it, you'll see is just a piece of wire screening that you'd find in a door. This interesting little centipede that's there was actually a piece of bric-a-brac that you'd sew onto a piece of clothing. This was a fringe on a cushion, and that, believe it or not, when you see the close-up, is an incredible piece, and it's just a piece of wallpaper that was put on there, and we rolled over top of it, in that case with a little roller. So it will take whatever impression you want. So you're not really bound to using these type of tools all the time. You can be very creative in what you do. You can make your own tools if you want by taking nails and grinding the heads of them to make different shapes. There's a variety of things that you can do. Now we're going to go back to the kind of interesting but very, very controlled atmosphere of making something. And if it's going to be a wristband to start off with, we're going to do a geometric pattern. And one of the tools that comes in very handy is a set of dividers. I like to use these 4-inch ones. And I don't do a lot of measuring when I'm doing leather work. I like to use the dividers. If I want to run a line down the center of this, then what I'm going to do down in an area that isn't going to show is I'm going to measure this. When the 2 points touch, then I know I'm in the middle of my strap. I can then take this and run a line down. Let's see how close I got. Not very close. So we'll split the difference there. And then it's a matter of just taking some of the tools that I have in my little folder here and making a design on the leather. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and in leather terms it's called a veiner, and I'm just going to make a mark with the veiner. You can see that the leather is the right degree of wetness. That's called casing, by the way, when you get the right degree of wetness in. If you're compressing the leather properly, you can see that when I turn it over, you can see the imprint on the back of the leather. That's because the leather's been compressed and it's gone to the depth that I wanted it to go to. So from there, I can take and put that tool on there again and hit it, and I can start to do a design. So why don't you take the tool and the mallet, and you can just continue that all the way down towards the end of the belt strap. Okay, first lesson. When you're hitting with the mallet, you want it to come square onto the piece of leather and not like that. That's why it was doing it. Some of the newer tools are rounded on the top. I know back in the 70s when I learned how to do leather work, the old timers would take these and grind them on the top so that they were sharp on the edges and they wouldn't slide off like that. So it's not a common, or it's a common problem for most people now. So if you want to try it again, and remember, you're letting the mallet do the work. Just let it drop down onto the top.